I believe it. All right, everybody out there on Facebook and everywhere else that you can hear us in the world. Okay, the sound is good. Yes, yes, yes. We are here for another Hear It First interview because y'all are the first to hear what Angelina has to say about being a part of the Purpose Preparation coaching program. And it's just so exciting, all the things that are going on in her life right now. So I'm excited for all of you to hear what's been happening with her over the last few months and what's to come. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Yes, everybody is saying congratulations, G baby, Angelina,
That's
whichever
what they
one.
saying.
Oh man. But yes, you have anything to say before we get going?
Who, me?
Yes, ma'am.
Not really. I'm just, happy to be here. I don't know what you're about to ask me. So clearly about to be off the dome.
What's E equals MC squared? Time, let me stop.
I don't know.
I don't either. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So what made you say yes to coaching?
But what made me say yes to coaching, it was just the way it came about. So Kendra and I were a part of a fast. I do a fast at the end of the year, starting in October, instead of, starting the year off fasting. I like to go into the year already with clarity and, knowing what God has for me. And so I had invited Kendra because prior to October, we had been communicating via Facebook and that type of stuff. So I knew that Kendra was a woman of faith. And so I decided to invite her. And through that experience, we started to get to know each other. But she kept talking about, my business and my program. I was like, what is this program? And so at the time, I was a little lost with all of the things that God had placed on my heart to do. And so one afternoon, Kendra and I were just talking, and I was letting her know. I said, well, what is your program, girl? Because you keep talking about it, and I don't know. And so she got to telling me about it. And I'm like, oh my God, that is what I need. And so, but I knew it cost. And so as a single mother of 3 and a teacher, y'all already know what my finances are looking like. So I was like, I'm not even about to try it. I'll just move on and just let the Lord work. But Kendra said that God had already told her that we were going to work together. And so, me, I'm like, well, now, Kendra, I can't afford you. And so she was like, but I didn't ask you about no money, And so she and I worked out the whole situation. No, I didn't get it for free, but she just let the Lord use her. And that's when I realized, like, it's not about money, with you. And so it made me want to do, like, I didn't have any more excuses as to why I couldn't get anything done after that.
Yes. That's how God works, He just always does his thing. So you talked about how you had all of these things happening, or you're trying to put a lot of different things together. You really didn't know how to start. So talk to us about how we initially got together to kind of like break down everything that you did have to try to make it like succinct to let's do this, then let's do that, and let's do that.
Okay. So Kendra, basically, she talked to me about some of the things that I wanted, to do. And it was literally all over the place. And I know me, if it just looks like it's a daunting task and I can't make heads or tails of it, I will procrastinate. And so what she had me do was fill out this document. And I believe the first one looked at like my core values and things of that nature, so that I could really look to see what is it that I believe in and what am I trying to give to people through, my core values. And it just really, built on top of that, like who was my target audience. And that was even a task because when you think about the audience, you're trying to target it. And initially, it was just single moms. She was like, well, it can't just be single moms. Like, who are you, trying to reach? So it really just made me hone in on exactly who am I trying to reach? What does, the work stand for? What am I trying to accomplish? And do my values, align with that?
Yeah. And so initially, as most people, they're just like, I don't really understand what you mean by a target audience. But as you got into it, you start to understand, and then you had interviews with different ladies. How was that process of like interviewing and just kind of like your person coming alive in a sense?
Once I started to interview the different ladies for, Hagar's Village, because mind you, I had Hagar's Village in my head almost a whole year prior. And I'd had the name, I had been sitting on it, and I knew who I wanted to target. But once I started talking to them and really listening to what is it that these mothers need, because all single mothers don't have the same history. I mean, quiet as it's kept, and contrary to popular opinion, we're not all just ghetto, angry, bitter women. And so you can't just make an organization that targets all the people. And so once I started to talk to them, it really made me think about different things that they needed. And so what Kendra had me do was look at like those top 3 things. And because I think we had honed it down to like 7. And then when you really looked at it, those 7 kind of filtered into some other ones. So we were able to turn it into spirituality, education, and just community as a whole.
Yes, 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 yes. So after putting the audience together and like your values and kind of separating all the pieces that you had, like with the book and the podcast and all of that, and kind of just focusing on Hagar's Village, how was it kind of putting the foundation of Hagar's Village together so that you actually could work the ministry yourself?
Kendra, that was hard. It was hard to do because, you can feel like you got it. Like, I know what I want to do. In talking with you, you just ask question after question after question. So, it would make sense. So putting those foundational pieces together and trying to figure out, well, how do, I give this to them and understand that you're limited, on funds. So what can you start out with first? And then, build on top of that. So, if you saw any of the postings, then you would have seen where we actually just met together just to get to know each other and start building that community. And then every month we would, get together, but every month was centered around something. So the second time, even though it was still building that community, we started to look at who we were so that I could see what educational resources do I need to bring in, how can I reach them spiritually, and understanding that everybody doesn't believe, the same thing. Even though I grew up Church of Christ, this isn't a Church of Christ organization. It's literally a God organization. And so being able to reach anybody, regardless of, how they grew up or what denomination they're a part of. And so that was even something that I had to pray about to make sure that I was still able, to reach them. So every month, still obviously community being that foundational piece because we're gathering, but also checking in, with them and letting them know like I'm still here, even though we got a couple more weeks till we meet up, but checking in with them. And that also allowed me to build a relationship with them and then connecting them to other women within the organization and them, starting talking and, things like that.
Yeah. And just speak to, because you just touched on it a little bit, speak to people that have this great big vision, but God isn't asking you or requiring you a great big vision. He's just requiring you to do step 1, then step 2, then step 3. So talk to the people about how you yourself kind of had to like break it down through, all the questions that I was asking, but kind of like encourage those people at this moment.
Well, I would say 1, understand that God 9 times out of 10 isn't probably going to give you the step-by-step process. He's probably going to give you something large and it's going to seem like, oh, I can't do that, God. And you're right, you can't. But if you allow yourself to fully trust in him, because I'll tell you, the reason that I couldn't get started was because I was trying to figure out, how do I do this big thing? Like, when he literally said it in my lap, because I told you I saw all types of stuff that Hagar's village will eventually be. So in my mind, I'm like, I got to do it this way. And had you and I not been on that fast together, I would have still probably been sitting up trying to do all the big things. And so during the fast was when God said, start small. But I didn't know how small to start. So it wasn't until you and I started to talk and you started to piece it together and be like, well, let's look at this. And so things start to make sense when you just take what you can do, and you have to stay in prayer about it. If it's truly something that God has placed on your heart to do, it is going to seem like I can't do it. And again, you can't, but lean into him and ask him, will God guide me into where I need to start first? What do I need to do? And don't even try to do it all by yourself. I don't do any of this by myself. Like, I have somebody who does my media for me. I have somebody who does like flyers and t-shirts and decor. I even have somebody who helps me figure out, well, what we gonna do next, or just throw some ideas out there, because we all have different gifts. And I know that some of the stuff, that's not my lane. So I stay in my lane, and that also requires you to relinquish control. So if you're someone who I have to know this, and this, it's just gone and give it up, because one, God needs to have control, and you just need to constantly go back to him and be asking, okay, what's next, God? What we doing next, God? Lead me, because you're not leading him. So that's just my takeaway and my advice to anybody who, that God has asked you to do something and you're like me, I want to do it, but I can't figure out how to do this because this is a little too much. Just lean on God.
Yeah, and that's good, because I talk about a lot about our ministry being in phases. It's like God didn't ask you to do it all right now. He asked you to start, do this little piece, then this little piece, then this little piece. And before you know it, it's like, hold up, I'm walking in the vision. Like I'm in what I saw. But it took all of those different moments and just relying on Holy Spirit to just help us. And then having, like you said, other people that have their own expertise to help and to build a ministry.
And it's scary too when people actually, they believe in it, and so they send other people to you like, whoa, I'm not ready for that part yet. And I felt so bad, because I did have a lady reach out to me and she was like, somebody sent me to you and she said you can help me with da 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 da. And I'm like, I can't right now, but let me help you with what I can do. But it also gave me some insight to something that I didn't think about. So now that is on the to-do list.
Yes. I love it. So how was it preparing for your first event and like having the first event and actually just getting going? Like, you got all the pieces together. Now it was like, it's time to have like a Hagar's Village event. So how was that process?
Stressful. Girl, okay, so I was excited. I was nervous because I was putting it off, like, because I knew too that once I put it out there, there's no turning back, because you don't want to be, how you have those like one-hit wonders, you be trying to figure out, they had that one song out, where did they go? Like, I didn't want to be a one-hit wonder. And I knew that if I do this, then it's me and you, God, right? And so I was fearful, and I waited until the last minute. And my guy that's over, let me stop calling my guy. Y'all, my brother be doing my flyer. And so he was like, when you putting your stuff out, right? And so I was like, soon he was like, you only have 3 weeks, so okay, I'll do it. But once I hit go, like, I started to sweat, because I knew that I can't go back from this. If I put this out here and I got all these other people saying, I got you, girl, I believe in you. And I know the same people that I got you, girl, can not have you. And so again, it just made me think, okay, God, we in this thing now. And so I remember trying to figure out, okay, because I don't like to beg, but where am I going to get the money for food? Let me tell you something. God is so good. I had donations coming in. The twins' godmother, she donated funds. When I tell you, she was on the food committee. She made sure I had everything that I needed. One of my coworkers, she was like, "Well, I'm not a part of Hagar's Village, but let me show you how to do a order. You know, I don't do online orders for shopping for groceries. I go in." So she put my order in and, you know, allowed me to get some discounts. So that worked. Then I had a lady who's a part of Hagar's Village. She was like, "Well, I'm going to do your balloon decor." And I was like, "Girl, I can't pay for that." She's like, "I didn't ask you that." So getting it all together, like I still have the balloons. Everybody want me to pop them, but I'm not. And so just getting it all together was great. It was waiting on the RSVPs. And this was when God really was testing my faith, because it had to be maybe like a week before. And I'm like, I don't have no RSVPs but one. And then you have people say, "Girl, I'm gonna be there." That's not an RSVP. Hence, Black people, that is not an RSVP. You need to hit the button. And so I didn't realize that I wasn't the one who had set up the RSVP Evite. My brother had done that as well. So I didn't have access to it. So the whole time I'm low key in my feelings about it. And I'm like, nobody is coming to this event. I'm on here making a fool of myself. God, you said, you know, mad, but not wanting to let anybody. And I'm like, girl, I'm good. Feelings hurt. Listen, it was probably like a week before, and my brother was like, I just asked him, said, "Is not anybody coming?" He was like, "You want to see your RSVPs?" I was like, "You have them?" So yeah, you got some. I felt so bad, and I was like, "Okay, God, my bad. I'm a trust. I really am." But I thought, wasn't nobody coming. Feelings was hurt.
Yes, and they showed up and y'all had a good time, and like all it took was that one to get it going. Because now you've had multiple events now. Now you've
Right.
had multiple times y'all have gotten together. So how many times has it been now? Like,
Well, we started in February, so we get together every month, and then we have one coming up this Saturday. It's a financial workshop. So if you have an issue with budgeting and things of that nature, then we have somebody who is coming in to help us get it together, because, you know, oftentimes
yes.
it's not the fact that we don't have enough money. We just got to know how to manage it appropriately. And as single mothers, oftentimes we just got one income, you know, bless you if you are getting support from the other parent. But if not, you know, God got you, but we got to manage what God gives. And so with that, we're going to do that on Saturday. So you are more than welcome to RSVP. Just dial 972-433-2525 and type RSVP, and we will put you on
Yes.
the list for Saturday.
Yes. And so after you did y'all get up on that financial workshop. So after the first event, and it's almost like Hagar's Village was official. Now, after this past year of, you know what, I need to do it, but I'm not doing it, and then the event happens and you finally did it. How did it feel actually
It
doing
felt
the thing?
good. It felt good. It felt good. Like all of the, because even though I don't feel like you had to push me too hard, you did have to push me. And so there were times I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is not even going to work. Like, what's he asking me to do? I don't want to, you know. So, but it really did work. And I think I just needed to just some assistance to be able to see that this can work. Now you're gonna have to do the work, but
Right.
there's just some things you don't know. And I have been paying money, you know, because everybody got a program.
Right.
Everybody has a program, and you know, they really beefed up during COVID. Everybody got a class you can take. And so I've taken several, wasted money. But this is the only class where you literally have access to the person and you feel like you're getting something out of it. It's not, okay, go do this assignment and then, you know, I might see you later on, or you got to get on with a bunch of other people and you realize like this is not a real call. Like Kendra is accessible. and she not, and she's accommodating, but she gonna let you know, okay, now look here, we done talked about this. I need you to do what you need to do. So I like the fact that we were able to actually communicate with one another. If I needed to, I could reach out and say, okay, Kendra, but I didn't. I knew Kendra was busy, but that's one thing I can say about God's perspective for me. You will have access to Kendra. It's not something where you don't see the person anymore.
Yes. And there were some times that you did call me.
In between
but I have no issues because that's what you get when you come into the program. And so we started to slightly transition during that time of the social media, getting the first event out, to you putting together your book podcast and also getting your book together, because y'all, Angalina G baby McClinton is is coming out with her first book. So talk about just the book process as well, because Hagar's Village was one of the main part, but there are some other pieces that God was asking you to do.
So the book process was different because, I've been writing since I was a kid. And so I have so many, different things written, and I knew that I needed, to write. And there were 2 different books that were in my head. And again, if I can't make a decision, I will just fall back on, I can't do it right now, and procrastinate, knowing good and well. But I will have different things that'll come up and I'll type it. But I just never got like super serious about it because it seemed too much, and because I couldn't decide which one, to do first. And so letting Kendra know, I got 2. I don't know, which one to start first. One is going to take a little research. And so, she was like, well, write about you. You don't really have to do no research about you. And people need to hear about you so that they can connect with you as a person and as an author, and then be more willing to purchase, your other works of art after that. And so just getting that together and laying it out, because I am a writer as well as an English teacher. So I critique work. It is hard. Kendra's like, just write it. I was like, I can't. It sounds bad. And so you have to, and plus I took a writing course. So as an educator, we can go through, there's different regions, and the teachers can take different courses that's supposed to help them. Well, this course, it was just gonna help me write, but it was she's a Christian author. I can't even think of the lady's name, but she does professional developments about writing. So I took her course and I remembered how she had said to write and do all the things, ways to get your book on Amazon and just all of that. And so I remembered that. And then I also signed up with this other one I was paying money on, and I was supposed to have been an author in 3 months or something like that. They're still writing me. But thinking of all of the things that I learned, and then here comes Kendra's like, just spit it out. So trying to do all of that, and then knowing that, no, this don't sound right. There's no way. She's like, you're going to have to send it to editing anyway. So just, get it out. So that's where Kendra and I did differ, because I was like, I can't write it like this. And so taking the time, though, she helped me get organized, because I did have a lot going on, whether it was planning for book writing or for Hagar's Village, or even getting ready for the podcast, because my podcast actually is out today. It's called the Book Chapter and Converse podcast. And so getting ready for all of that, it was a challenge. And so that was another reason I would just dial it back, because again, as a parent, you're a parent 24/7. So having a full-time job, and then a parent around the clock, and then you're trying to squeeze in those creative spots that ain't making you no money. And then just have a life, it was hard. And so she helped me put together a daily plan so that I can still feel like I'm getting somewhere. Because that's another thing I think that happens to people when you're overwhelmed with life and you're trying to do all of the things that you have to do. And then the things that I got to do because God said, but it's like, how do I fit this in with work and parenting and all of that? So creating a schedule where I could actually follow it and still feel like I'm progressing was something that I didn't even think to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it was really just one, I think it was out of things that I said, it was one thing that stuck with you as far as writing the book. And that was just writing it the same way you journal. And so that seemed to help to expedite your book writing process. Because initially it was like you were trying to write instead of just writing for yourself and then allowing the editing process later. So for those of you out there, some of you may just be very critical. You may be an English major and you're like, how do I do this? However you actually write right now, like just use that as a base level for how you can write. So if you journal a lot, journal as if write your book as if you're just journaling. If you do this a lot over here, write it in that way, but don't go against yourself. But just write it in those ways that help you.
But
to
not
move
only
forward.
that, I will say that because I've written so much, I was relying on my own ability to write. And so I had to remember that this assignment was given to me by God. Like this book, I would never write it because it's about to tell too much of my business. And so too much. And so, but I knew that I needed, to write it because it's going to bless somebody else. Like it's a topic that we need to discuss because, one person that I really do look up to and I follow, she's not the only one. And so I think we have to get more stories out there. And with
Yes.
that, I remember just trying to write and I couldn't do it. And it wasn't until that I prayed to God and was like, okay, God, now you said that if I do what you say, you're going to help me with this. And I just remember the words coming. Now, mind you, I am a writer. So it was tough to just have this writer's block all the time. Like, why can't I think of anything? Because I wanted it to sound a certain way. And I had to realize that this is not my book. Like while I'm writing this is a book for God's people. And so I needed to tap into him for the book, just like I had to tap into him for, Hagar's village. And so I would also say that if you're not writing a book just to be writing and you know that this is something that God has instructed you to do, then you're going to need to have him help you to write it because
Yes.
some of the stuff I never would have even thought, oh, I could put it like that. So me and the spirit literally just talking back and forth, like, I see you, okay. Because we're writing this book together.
Yes, yes. And then when we started working on like your testimony, um, your testimony. I mean, you tried to like you're sliding in and out of what you're trying to say right now. But when we started that, it was kind of similar to where you had kind of a tough time like sharing like your actual story because you felt like, well, I don't know when, where, and how all these different things started. But then after, of course, asking you the questions and all of that, it was like, oh, that is my testimony. So talk about that process too.
Okay, so if you do, decide to join with Kendra, she is going to make you write your testimony. And I'm just prepare you right now. But you have to be okay with saying it and putting it out there. And I had never done it. Nobody had ever asked me, like I've shared it with other people, but I never myself just had to write it out and tell it in front of anybody. And so, and then too, she gonna have you write it in 4 different like time limits, and I'm thankful for it because I actually have to do it here in about 45 minutes.
Yes. Preparation.
Right. Thank you, Kendra. But the truth is, it was hard to do because one, if you have a story like mine, you want to tell the truth, but sometimes the truth might be a little hard to tell. because other people are involved, you want to tell the truth, but you also don't want to be hurtful in telling the truth, but the truth is the truth, you know? And so that was tough to do. And then I think the even harder part was trying to mesh in, like I had never really looked at any scriptures that went with my story. And so I'm like, well, I don't know. Like I just gave my life to the Lord. I don't know what scriptures go with it, you know. All of that, but actually it made me think about the scriptures that do go with it. It really made me look at like all of the things that people say in relation to, you know, the scriptures that we rattle off, but being able to see how it really does apply, you know, to my life, and I'm sure, you know, to others was a big thing. But I think the hardest part was literally just trying to break it down. What is it? 45 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, and 7 minutes. That was hard to do.
Yes, but you did it.
I
You
did.
did it. You did it. I mean, you were trying to push back on me, but I was like, no, let me push back on
Was.
you. I ain't never scared. But for real though. But you got it done. And the moment that you did your testimony and like your bio and everything else, it was like that's when you did the podcast for free.
Right.
And so it's just all showing like, hey, I needed you to do all these different things, and just listen, and you'll be a-okay, a-okay. But yeah, so how do you feel like you have changed, and even your take on ministry now that you are actually walking in it? Like how have you feel like you have changed, and how has your perception or your thought process about ministry changed now that you began?
I'm definitely more confident. Um, it really made me, like I can honestly say that coming in, because there's some pieces to the program I didn't do. I don't know why Kendra didn't make me do them, but I didn't do. But when I came to Kendra, I had a relationship with God already. I was already studying, and it's not that I didn't know what I needed to be doing. My confidence level was not there. So honestly, that's a sign of a lack of trust somewhere. If we're honest, like anything that we're not doing, you know, for God, at the end of the day, it just goes back to God. I don't trust you with something. And I don't,
Hmm.
you would have to dig into your own self to figure out, God, what am I not trusting you with? But I don't trust something. And so that really made me dig into, God, what about you do I not believe yet? Like, I believe you. And, you know, because he's shown himself to me in different spaces. And it's crazy how we make God continue to work for our faith. You know, we just crazy. But it made me more confident. It deepened my trust in him, but it also gave me just a more emergency about ministry. You know, we, as you and I were talking just, what was it, today or yesterday? But we were
Yesterday.
just
Hmm.
talking about how unfortunately we have to have all of these ministries because, you know, not a dig at churches, but they lack some things that we need as people. And you can't continue just to say that, you know, well, you should just believe in God. We should. But at the end of the day, we're people. And so we need some supports. And so while Kendra and I have two different ministries, the goal is still to turn hearts towards God. And the more that I run into people and just even talk to the ladies that I support, I see more and more where we have to have a sense of urgency because the world got it. Like, you know, I don't even think they urgent. I just feel like they know God's people over here slacking. And so if
Hmm.
we can just get them and pull them in, we can pull them in. And
Right.
so it causes me to want to just do more to the point where sometimes I think I'll be like, okay, just chill. I already got you stuff to do. Can you do that? And then I'll give you more because
Hmm.
you can't save everybody. Like that's not my
Right.
job. It's not Kendra's job. But we all have a job to be doing it. So it just gives me a deeper appreciation for my own, you know, salvation. It strengthened my faith in him, you know, even more. I had to fast, like I remember I was at work. And so like the week prior to Hagar's village starting, I was fasting, and I don't know what was going on that they were eating so much at work, but even the people up there were like, nah, she fasting, like she fasting, praying for Hagar's village. So they knew like
Mhm.
this is starting. And so I just relied on God more. And like I said, just a sense of urgency to just get his message out there, because we have to.
Yes, yes, that is good. And I was not gonna, this just came to my mind. Because of your testimony and it being Pride Month. Um, what words do you have? And I don't even have a full thought out question, but what words do you have for for this month? What it means, where you are?
Hey, repeat, you said for this month?
Yes, with it being Pride Month.
Oh, okay. What words do I have? Well, I actually did a video on it. You can follow me on TikTok at listen_to_Angie. The video is there.
Yes.
Wait, or maybe not. I think I did live. I think it was it was on Facebook. You can still follow me on
It's there.
TikTok for all of your spiritual and parenting needs.
Right.
But I did a live. And one of the things that I notice, and I see it all the time, but just me being in a different place spiritually now, is how we treat people. Like Pride Month is not going anywhere. It's not. And I noticed that we become, some of us, very self-righteous. Like we
Yeah.
tend to, I see more scriptures, I see more memes about pride and the rainbow. Like we know that the rainbow is a symbol of a promise. We know that God laid it out there for Noah. We know this. And guess who else knows it? The LGBT community. They know
Right.
it. The devil
Right.
knows it. They know the scriptures better than some of us because they've heard them.
Hmm.
Don't get it twisted that all of them out there, are just lost and don't know. Several of them came from very religious homes. Several of them were kicked out of those homes. So it's not that they don't know. But if I'm honest, and just from being in that community for 7 whole years, I saw a lot. I experienced a lot. And one thing that I really did not see was love. They have their whole mantra, which is love is love. No, no. God is love, and God has designed how he wants love to be. But the problem that I do see is that we as believers fail to show love. There is a way to disagree with the community and still let God get the glory. He doesn't get any glory
Yes.
when we choose to be hurtful, when we choose to be disrespectful. I had somebody say, well, you got to teach
Amen.
the word. You can teach the word and still not
Right.
be mean and disrespectful. But my challenge for us is to live the word. The
Yes.
problem is for a lot of us, and it doesn't matter what stronghold we're talking about, we as believers, several of us, we walk around talking the talk, but they don't see us walking the walk.
Right.
So why would I want to be a part of this body of believers when y'all mean? I don't want to be part of that. When y'all talk about people, or maybe your hang up isn't homosexuality, but it's lying or stealing, or I'm gonna hit it, fornication, or it's gossiping, or you just, too religious. You're
Right.
all about religion and not about relationship with the Father. And
Hmm.
so it's hard for people. And since we're talking about Pride Month, it's hard for people in that community because they've received so much hate, and it's from God's people. We can expect hate from other people who don't believe in God, but when you have believers walking around, claiming to love the Lord and claiming to be religious,
Right.
but they see your sins. And one of
Right.
your sins is hate, discord. They're not going to cross over, because why
Right.
would they? You know what I mean? So I would
Right.
challenge God's believers to stop doing so much of this with these scriptures and let them see your love. You can still not agree. You can still not agree. But that does not mean that in your disagreements that you have to be all the disses, disrespectful, and any other dish you can come up with. Like, stop being that, because only love can conquer hate. You know what I'm saying? You can't mix light and
Yeah.
dark. So once you start shining that light, they either gonna run from it or they're gonna come to it. So we don't have to be offensive. That was the post that I made. Like, we don't have to be offensive. The
Right.
word is offensive enough. It's going to cut. That's what it's
Right.
designed to do. It's going to cut off all of the bad stuff so we can live the life that we need. And so we just have to allow God to do his great work. It's not our great work. We
Right.
are just the vessels. We get out there, but in order for them to see God, we have to have those characteristics of God. And one of those is love, it's patience, it's kindness, it's all those things. And so I just challenge us
Yes.
to be that all year round, and especially during this month when we choose to be mean.
Yeah, and it's not necessary to be mean. Like you said, the word itself does the work, and the word itself with somebody who is humble does enough. Sometimes we think we have to be overly, like you said, disrespectful, or we feel like we have to act this way or that way, and it's like a humble person can get a lot done with still speaking the truth.
Right.
Like, if anything, you'll gain an ear real quick
Mhm.
if you're being actually respectful while also saying, I don't want you to go down this road anymore, versus you going to hell right now,
Right.
So
I
there's
don't need
there
you to
is
tell me that.
yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference. A lot of people, like you said, they actually already know
They
like what
know.
time it is. So it's our job to do what God has called us to do. But God is love. And so loving our brothers and our sisters and loving the people of this world enough to be able to bring them to Christ without disrespect is something that we all can 100% do.
Exactly.
Any last words you have about your journey with the program? Anything I didn't ask you that you were thinking of? Yes, let us know.
Just last words. I would just say, if you are on the fence about getting your ministry going, whatever that is, or even if you just need help with that, don't hesitate to reach out, to Kendra. She's kind, but she's honest. She's gonna let you know, when something ain't right. I call her the forgiveness queen because, honey, she can preach on some forgiveness. And so she will be able to help you also dig into you and figure out what is holding, you back from actually getting out there and doing what God, has called you to do. So I would definitely not turn her program down if that's something that you are longing to do. But even if you don't want to, sign up for it, still pray to God. Like I said, we all have work to do. And so I'm just thankful that I had the opportunity to go through this program because it did grow me even more spiritually. I mean, it even made me more conscious of how much time I am spending, in the word, because that's one thing that we fail to do. A lot of us, we pray. Ooh, and we can pray, but communication is a two-way street. And so God talks to us in several ways, but one of the ways that he does talk to us is through his word. Like, we be looking in all areas for instruction, and the best instruction is in the word, like for anything. And
Yes.
so it made me to even assess, well, how much time are you spending? Could you spend more? Like, where was I spending my time? So I think I gained more than just how to get my work off the ground, but it made me more cognizant of the intentionality that I was putting into my relationship with God. So you can get so many things from this other than just how to get the assignments that God has given you off the ground.
Yes, 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 yes. And G was talking about how she didn't go through all of the process of the program. It's because I didn't think she needed it. So if I think you need it, or after we talked that first time or so, I'm like, okay, this person is here.
Advanced.
Yeah. So there were certain things that she didn't need. It wasn't that she just didn't do them because I didn't want her to do them. It was because it wasn't necessary. And I don't ask anybody to be in my coaching program longer than they need to be, or longer than the information that they need to give me. I don't need your money just for you to give me your money.
I told you.
You will pay me for what you get, but I don't just keep it going for no reason, for no apparent reason at all. So she went through all of the launching pieces into the monetize your ministry pieces so that she could go ahead and get everything off the ground for Hagar's Village. And I'm excited for you because you've been doing the thing. I mean, y'all, like just 2 months ago, her background didn't look like that. You know, she got a social media background. She has the social media background, y'all. Like she's working it out, as you can see. So I'm just excited for you and where your ministry is going. For all of you out there, if you have seen her flyer on her page or on my page, she'll be on the Salisi call at 8:20. It usually lasts for about 30 minutes. So if you want to join, please call in and join us there. And again, for those of you that want to join, just message me, DM me. You can always find me here on Facebook, YouTube, Kendra Dublin, at Kendra Dublin. Find me on Google, Kendra Dublin, and I'll pop right up. Praise the Lord. So
you know what? I think you can Google me now.
Hey, Google me, baby.
Yeah, because one of her sheets is called Google Me.
Google me, baby.
Girl.
Yes. Well, I'm excited for you. Many blessings to you. And I still got to give you Leslie's contact because she didn't had a couple of speaking engagements already, a couple of podcasts and everything. So especially when you come in and you come into at least my world, I will filter you out to everybody that I know as much as possible so that you can get going. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you, G, for your testimony. And go ahead and get going with God has called you to today, because tomorrow is too late
to be great.
Y'all have a good night. Bye.